All right, this is going to be AP Macro 2015. So we did the 2014 number 2 yesterday. We're not doing the 2014 number 3 because that is Unit 6 stuff. It's 4x graph. Not going to be on the test, so I'm not going to do it. For the 2015, let's do the long essay. So pause the video. Just Google 2015 AP Macro FRQ. Should be one of the first 2 links you see there. And go do it. And then I'm going to go over it. All right, so number 1 says, assume the United States economy is operating below full employment. Below full employment, right? Think below the curve on the production possibilities curve, all right? So if full employment is the production possibilities curve, being on it, below full employment means you're inside the curve. So you know you have a recession going on. So it's saying draw a correctly labeled graph of long-run aggregate supply, short-run aggregate supply, aggregate demand, and show each of the following, all right? So that should look like this over here. You've drawn a recession. There you go. All right. It says, assume the Federal Reserve targets a new federal funds rate to reach full employment. Should the Federal Reserve target a higher or lower federal funds rate? If you're in a recession, whatever the interest rate is they mention, you want a lower interest rate. Okay. So remember, I told you guys, consider the federal funds rate, the nominal interest rate on that money market graph. Okay. So the Fed wants to target a lower federal funds rate. Anytime there's a recession, they want a lower federal funds rate. Anytime there's an inflationary gap, they would want a higher federal funds rate. Given the Federal Reserve action you identified in Part B, draw a correctly labeled graph of the money market and show the effect on the nominal interest rate. All right, so you draw the money market graph. I think you did this a couple days ago. You increase that money supply, showing that lower nominal interest rate. Now remember, it's nominal interest rate on this graph, but consider it the federal funds rate. All right, showing the interest rate going down. There you go. Okay, the policymakers pursue a fiscal policy rather than monetary policy in Part B. Assume the marginal propensity to consume is 0.8 and the value of the recessionary gap is 300 billion. Okay, so what they're saying is between here, Y1 and YF, there needs to be 300 billion in spending. All right, and they're telling you the marginal propensity to consume is 0.8. Well, that means the MPS is 0.2. 1 over 0.2 is going to get you 5. Okay, so 5x equals 300 billion. All right, so how much spending does there need to be? X equals 60 billion. You see it right here. 1 point is earned for calculating the minimum required change in government spending, 60 billion. Okay, and they're showing you that 300 divided by 5. I do it as just 5x equals 300, x equals 60 billion. If the government changes its spending without changing taxes to eliminate the recessionary gap, calculate the minimum required change in government spending. They say 1 point is earned for stating that the minimum required change in taxes will be greater than the minimum required change in government spending. Okay, the reason being is the tax multiplier is 1 less than the spending multiplier. So 4x equals 300, right? And then that would give you 75. All right. So, in other words, to get the same amount of spending by cutting taxes, they'd have to cut taxes by 75 billion, or they have to spend 60 billion in government spending. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions about that. If the government changes taxes without changing government spending to eliminate the recessionary gap, will the minimum required change to taxes be greater, smaller, or equal to the minimum required change to government spending in Part D-I? So 1 point is earned for explaining that the tax multiplier is smaller than the government spending multiplier because part of the initial increase in disposable income caused by the decrease in income tax will be saved rather than spent. You don't need to say that. All you need to say is the tax multiplier is 1 less than the spending multiplier. That's the explanation, okay? So you would just simply say the government change in taxes without the change in government spending will be greater. The reason being is because the tax multiplier is less than the spending multiplier. You don't need to get into disposable income caused by the decrease in income taxes. I promise. They wouldn't ask you that, or they wouldn't expect that. Assume the government lowers income tax rates to eliminate the recessionary gap. Will each of the following increase, decrease, or stay the same? Aggregate demand. What's aggregate demand? If you lower taxes, what's going to happen to aggregate demand? Consumer spending is going to go up because people have more income. Aggregate demand will increase. There you go. Long-run aggregate supply. Long-run aggregate supply will not change. An increase in consumer spending will not impact your long-run aggregate supply. All right. The only thing that can impact long-run aggregate supply would be if businesses become more productive. So you would just simply say consumer spending is not going to change aggregate supply. Consumer spending is not going to make businesses more productive. So, it's not going to lead to an increase in physical capital for businesses. All right. Okay, there you go.